Good morning. My name is Luis Martinez, and this is my presentation for chapters 5 through 8, titled The Mechanics of Transformation, Why Change Stays or Decays. So, the first thing we should mention is that when it comes to changes, sometimes most of the time it flaws. There is huge flaws. The one of those being auditory and decree, which is in simple terms, people will tend to go for a telling type of idea as opposed to just showing. Show don't tell, but telling isn't doing. Realistically, when you tell people something, they won't fully believe it. They'll just brush it off. So when it comes to change, people will just ignore or pretend to just like, oh, I'll get involved in this and that. But reality is they're just going to try to undermine every single little aspect and just say, this is not working. This isn't right. This isn't not it. So just constantly be negative. Well, some people might argue that you could micromanage, micromanaging, being able to see every little action, every little detail could help you and, manage for change. Well, that may be true. It's just kind of just a failed substitute that just really doesn't scale up too much, especially when you're in an organization. So another reason being is that organizations are very, very, very strict when it comes to what they want. They have these things called the granite walls, where it's just a place where they just reject ideas, or it's just an analogy for saying it's a big wall that trying to break through it is hard. So think of like trying to bring in a new idea and stuff like that. The company will always try to find a way to say no or find a little flaw in it that says this is a great opportunity for us to say no. So it's one way to combat through it is with your vision. This is because, as I mentioned in the previous slides, vision is your guiding light. It's basically the main key ingredient to being able to fully embrace change. Why? Because when you have a vision, it's supposed to clarify and highlight the importance of change. So when you basically have your vision, you are essentially saying, look, this is what we can do for the future. This is what could bring to us. Are you in or are you not in? It's supposed to facilitate, people into having more motivation. And with more motivation, they're able to do more because they know they're doing something for a change. And it also helps align individuals in a remarkably efficient way by, as usual, being motivated, just trying to go through, follow through, and just try to do everything in their willpower to succumb to this change. Something that also should be noted is communication. Communication is key. I've read this a lot where they talk about communication, talking with people, being able to be a leader and stuff like that. The thing here is that I put as a main point that information does not equal transformation. So while you may have the information, yes, it's important to have information. It's also important to communicate it efficiently. What I mean by this is constantly reminding people what you're going for, what it is, what it's all about. The reason being is because we as human beings, we tend to think too much. Our brains are made for thinking, not retaining. So we think too much about, different thoughts, different emotions. We don't constantly think about the vision or just the information they give to us. So constantly talking about it with people in like meetings, memos, newspapers, or anything like that will help people understand, oh, okay, I'm getting reminded. This is what I'm doing it for. Another thing that should be noted when it comes to communication is leading by example. This is because behaviors are much more louder than words. From my own personal experience, I just like to share this right off, is that I've read books talking about this. One of my favorite being Letters to a Young Athlete by Chris Bosch. And one of the chapters he does talk about this exact topic of leading by example. So an example he would give was like with the veterans on like when he played with the Raptors would always come in on time, get dressed, work out, warm up, stretch and stuff like that. And when he was a young rookie, he would see that and he always followed those leaders because he knew that to be great, he had to follow what the veterans have done throughout their whole careers. And this also ties in with organizations because we as human beings tend to just believe actions more than words. And so when we see someone, say for example, in an organization, top management, when we see somebody doing these actions regarding to the vision and stuff like that, or constantly bringing up this vision, we see these characteristics and we want to follow them because we want to feel like how does a leader feel in their footsteps. Another thing that should be noted is that when it comes to leading by example, if it's an actual like high-end leader, they have to be very consistent with how they see the vision. This is because if they are very inconsistent with the vision, it could really cost them, especially with communication. Another thing that should be noted is with the barriers to action. We have to dismantle those because, and this is what I said is our main point, empowerment is just an engineering task, not just the motivational part. This means we have to remove these quote cages of bad structure and our supportive bosses, meaning we have to tackle these problems to get forward. It's like when you're trying to, go through security, we have to engage with them. And then once we engage with them, and then they let us in. It's similar to that. One of these things that we could do is training. We could train people to be more in line to what is required. So an example they gave us in the book was like behavior training or social skills, two skills that are very like I want to say more neglected, where people don't think it's a very important thing to have. And another thing we should also know for is blockers. As the book states, blockers are those people who just will do everything in their willpower to stop the momentum and will stop you from trying to achieve your vision. And they don't produce in these short-term wins, and they're just there to just be a nuisance. And this is something from what we mentioned in the first presentation is the importance of short-term wins. When it comes to short-term wins, it's very crucial. Just like almost everything in this slide is very crucial because in the main point I put was small wins silence skeptics because these short-term wins are like checkpoints. So if you were to give an analogy, say for a video game, if you were to die in a level, right, and you were actually made it to a checkpoint, that you could easily just revert back to where you were there. And with these checkpoints, it helps you know that you're making progress going down, up, all the way to the end. And not only that will also impact with your the progress you're doing, but also it will also show like upper management or other skeptics that you are making good progress. And thus this will turn those like neutral people who didn't believe in it to supporters, or those reluctant supporters into active helpers, people who are real willing to help you out. And seen in this graph right here, it is showing that like without the short-term wins, it'll just fall through. With just one, it will go through, it will go up, but if you don't continue producing more, it'll just keep going down and down. And then the last one on the top with case three, it just goes all the way up because you have constant short-term wins. Oh, sorry about that. So the next thing is the wins. When it comes to wins, people will always say, oh, it's just luck based. You got lucky with that win. But the thing is like in organizations, wins are supposed to be planned. They're not miracle shots. They're not just some chance time or whatever. The thing is like when it comes to wins, you don't pray. You don't just hope, oh, I hope I get a win, or I hope this and that. No, you actively work for those wins. You plan it, you organize the necessary motions, and then you follow through. It's supposed to help people know that we're not just gonna win, we're gonna win, and we know it because we have A, B, C, and D. And we have to make sure that these results are visible. Because if they just see it as just the, oh, you just got lucky thing, then people are not gonna believe you as much. And this is a quote that was said in the book as well. It's like the job of management is to win with with the short term, but you're still also actively being stronger and having a stronger position to win in the future. So with all the things we've covered so far, it's all got leading to the breakthrough. And the main point I put in this one is the effect of the process is more substantial when done correctly. So this means, as previously mentioned on the last presentation, is that we have to build enough momentum with all of these steps like urgency, guiding correlation, vision, et cetera, as means to build momentum to follow through and go through that quote granite wall. Something else that should also be noted is that when it comes to short-term wins, and this is very important, they are not the victory. They're not the full victory. They're just a glimpse of progress that we have. It does not mean that everything changed. Another thing is with blockers, you have to find a way to either eliminate them or try to influence them. But you can't just be spending too much time on trying to influence them. Just try to find a way to not have them impact your momentum as much. So, in conclusion, the change is the lengthy process. Just like with almost everything in life, it's tedious, it's going to be hard, there's going to be ups and downs, but it's all about being able to align, have the alignment, the trust, and the action to follow through. And it just requires that leadership. Do you have the right leadership, the right person to see the future and to help people feel more motivated, as well as manage short-term wins to show that you guys are doing great? It's always great to find success since you end up feeling more accomplished and you feel better about not only just yourself, but also you feel better as a team because you guys have managed to do the unthinkable. And that's why the last quote I put here was success is found in the persistence of the process. And this concludes my presentation. Thank you so much. And I hope you all have a great day.